Okay, again, I'm calling the meeting to order, and I would ask the Secretary Pro Tem to move forward with a roll call, please. And I just want to, just before you make that roll call, Secretary Kimberly Sanders is out of town on business, and she has agreed to call in, but we're going to move forward until she calls in for attendance, okay?
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Here.
Mr. Teray?
Here.
And Secretary Pro Tem is here?
Did you say Dr. Hall?
Dr. Hall? Mrs. Sanders?
Okay, let us stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to move into the public section of our agenda. Right at this point, I have one public comment, and that is by Mary Bragg, and regarding negotiations. Are there any more or additional public comments?
No, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, Board of Education and
Good evening.
Administration. On behalf of the Crete Monee Education Association, my request is to inform you I have hand-delivered a request for mediation dates from the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. We filed with the FMCS a formal letter for a request for mediation yesterday morning. We have tentative dates that was presented to Dr. Cunningham, and Mr. Neal is now aware of the dates. And we are requesting a reply to those dates by this Thursday so that we can move forward with negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's ensure Dr. Cunningham that
We'll have that information
move
out
fast
to,
on that, okay?
we're moving very fast. We'll have that information out to the team and get the information back to them as quickly as possible so we can get into our negotiations.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, this is really a quick part here. There's no more additional public comments. We're going to move right into our regular board meeting. Are there any board updates? All righty. If not, we're going to move right into the administrative updates, starting with our superintendent.
Good evening. In our Policy and Educational Committee meetings during the school years, we discussed gifted and accelerated education. At the end of those discussions, the administration was asked to investigate gifted education. I researched the topic and found many different definitions ranging from acceleration of students to testing to determine giftedness. In discussing this at the Committee of the Whole meeting, it was determined that the district would build a committee that includes principals and teachers. This committee would review the gifted education and determine if a system for gifted education could be defined for the district that supports the mission of the district. The committee will be chaired by Ms. Hirsch. The committee will work to define 3 items: a district definition of gifted, a system for assessing giftedness, and a budget. The committee will complete their research and recommendations by December of 2016. If plans from the committee are viable as determined by the administration and the Board of Education, the district will pilot a system in the 2017-2018 school year. We will ensure that our parents and community continue to be informed about the committee and the results of the work of the committee.
Thank you. This gifted program and discussion, is that from what age span, what grade level?
Right now, what we will be looking for is from first grade to fifth grade.
So presently, we do not have any type of gifted program within our district.
Presently, we don't have a specific gifted program listed, but our teachers in first through fifth grade use what's called differentiation of instruction to make sure that they're meeting the needs of each individual student. They've worked very hard at meeting that. I'm proud to say that in looking at our scores from the measures of academic progress, that our teachers are making sure that our students are meeting their yearly growth goals. Many are exceeding.
Okay.
I got a comment on it. For Laura, please don't become the Illinois State Legislature and try to define gifted for the next 9 months. You know, let's get to the nitty-gritty here and come up with a common sense definition of a gifted child. Put that in place and then work on the program, please. You know, the state is going to have another commission on school funding. They got 4 or 5 blue ribbon panel things sitting on the shelf. You know, I don't want to get into that kind of situation where we're going to argue to death about what is a gifted child. You know, just let's use some common sense and, you know, get this thing done, okay? And give these young men and ladies, boys and girls rather, an opportunity to be challenged at every possible level and be the next leaders and innovators and inventors and all the things that they have the potential, God-given potential to do. Let's not waste a lot of time with it, okay? Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments on the gifted discussion by our superintendent? So you're going to bring back to the board a deliverable of some sort by the end of this year?
Yes, the end of the actual calendar year, meaning December of
December
2016.
Okay. And the committee, again, is going to be made up of?
Teachers and administrators.
Okay. That has not yet to be selected, right? The committee?
Correct.
Could you give the board an update as you go along, as opposed to waiting till December 2016, the end of the year?
Yes, sir. We can give an update in our committee of the whole meetings.
Great. Thank you, sir. Moving forward to our administrative updates is our HR resources department.
Thank you, sir. I believe this first one's actually Dr. Cunningham's because this had to do with the job descriptions that you had the board review.
We have additional information on the job descriptions that I gave at the committee of the whole. I know you guys had homework and we were supposed to get it all in and into your hands. I'll be sending that out this evening once we finished, and I will have a date on it that I hope to get all the input that I can from those descriptions from you guys. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing and getting back to me. Thank you so much.
Okay, do you want to reaffirm the deliverable date from the board? Do you know that date offhand that you wanted the information back to you from us?
I don't have it offhand. I'll send it in the email where I give the additional job description.
Okay, so 2019, that's good enough to get the information back to you?
No, sir.
Okay.
It'll be,
Okay.
it will be by the end of this month. I mean, at the latest, but I expected we were going to.
Stay on us.
Yeah,
Push the
I
button,
have to.
okay?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate it. All right. Back to you, number 2.
Okay, the district employee attendance update. This is a carryover from the committee of the whole. One of the items we weren't able to get to that evening. And my understanding was this was just some clarification on the summer schedule and how we track employee hours to make sure they're coming in on time, leaving on time, and that we're properly tracking things. And this is what was shared with me. So back in April, a memorandum was issued by the HR department that indicated the summer schedule. And as most people know, the central office staff, 12-month administrators and so forth, go on summer hours during the summer, which is 7 to 5, Monday through Thursday. So we can close the district on Friday and still get our 40-hour work week in. Those hours began the week of June 6th and will end, I believe it's the Friday, the 19th of August, I believe, is the last day of them. And this has been an ongoing tradition in the district, and I don't know all of the insights behind when it got started.
If you can hold on just one
Sorry.
second, I believe that's the call-in.
Hello, Mrs. Sanders? Yes,
So she's live.
you have entered right as we are at updates B, human resources, number 2, employee attendance information. We thank you for joining us. We know you're out of state on your job doing work.
No problem, no problem.
Can
Okay.
can you hear? Can you hear her now? Okay. I'm going to go.
Document the,
And the time that you've entered has been documented by the Secretary Pro Tem.
And Dr. Cunningham, there is a microphone there if you wish to use that so she can be heard on the record.
You all set?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Thank you.
ask her if she can go on mute on her side unless she has to talk, because we're getting a lot of feedback and background noise.
Mr. Brown, President Pro Tem asked if you could put yours on mute until you needed to talk, because we're getting a lot of background noise. from
Yes,
your
I
side.
just did.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry.
Absolutely
HR.
fine. So anyway, that's the story behind the 4-day work week and, how long that will be continuing. Each year I ask the superintendent and the cabinet if we want to continue doing this, and if so, when. And so far, the response has been to continue doing what we've been doing in the past, but each year it does get reviewed. So, how long we're going to do it, what we're going to do with this schedule. So just a little background on that. The other question had to do with, are we tracking, do we have a way of knowing if employees arrive on time, if employees are in fact there for the full workday? And we have a system called True Time, where all hourly employees are required to clock in and clock out on this system. It's essentially a digital time clock. And so that is how they get paid. At the end of the week, they submit a timesheet electronically to their supervisor. Their supervisor has to verify that those are the hours that they worked. Then the timesheet is submitted to payroll by the supervisor, and the employee gets paid for those hours. So if there's issues with an employee not showing up on time or an employee not working their full hours, they're going to show up through that system and also through the supervisor's responsibility to keep an eye on what's going on in their areas. So unless there's other questions, those were the two issues I was asked to just give a little information on. So if there's anything further, just, please feel free to ask.
Anybody else have any, or anyone have any issues or anything they would like to share regarding this topic?
How are they docked? 15-minute increments, or how does it work? Say Susie shows up at 7:10 or 7:08. I mean, what is it, a 15-minute grace window, or what do we got here?
Well, for clocking in, there is a grace period. I do not know off the top of my head what the grace period is. At one time, it was about 10 minutes, and that is because the time clocks themselves do take a little time to register that you've clocked in. So if you have multiple employees trying to get in at the same time, it could take several minutes to get 10 employees clocked in. So people wouldn't get in trouble. There is a window there for them to clock in. If there is a report or there is a problem, then it is incumbent upon the supervisor to try to visually or personally verify whether an employee is coming in late and those types of things. Essentially, what True Time does is it pays you for the time worked, and if you don't work it, you don't get paid. And so if you clock out 2 hours early, it's going to dock you 2 hours. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward system. It pays you for when you're clocked in.
And I would just like to take it a little step further, that we should not let some time clock system in some capacity oversee our workers. That's what it sounds like a little bit. I know that's not the intent, but that's what it sounds like. So we need some managerial oversight of our employees. And I can speak probably for the board here to some extent again as well, that we do not want to be micromanagement. Our business is not to be watching and see who's punching the clock, which employee is leaving early, so on and so forth. But then the whole point of employees is that they get paid for X amount of hours, and they ought to provide us that service for X amount of hours. That should be with any corporation. And just going back to the 4-day work week at 10 hours, I believe. Again, we are a 12-month a year operations, basically 24/7 in some capacity. These schools are here for 24 hours a day. Break-ins happen, things like that, and we need to be able to get in contact with somebody. Somebody needs to be able to speak for the board, for the school district in any given time. So is the 4 days okay? Yeah, I don't see a problem with it at this point. But again, you guys need to revisit this maybe on a managerial point and say, you know what, do we provide the adequate coverage that we need for that 24/7 operation? Okay, because our management team is not punching the clock. And,
No,
I can be the first to tell you, I know that feeling where I get called at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and will not hesitate to respond. It
And I've
just
had,
comes
I've
with the
had similar
nature.
calls myself, and I
Sure.
know that, you know,
Sure.
any of the central administrators
And
are
we
certainly.
should not be getting back responses from the admin team on a Friday when that's supposedly is your day off, you guys' days off, and say, you know what, we're off today. It shouldn't be an automatic response from your email that you're off today. Somehow, that's a gap. That's a gap in my opinion. Somehow, you know, I'm not telling everybody needs to, you know, on the admin team to be readily available, but nonetheless, we need to be able to contact you guys, someone. I'm putting it back on our superintendent, someone 24/7 if need be.
And I don't
So
know
I
if
think
Dr.
we need to-
Cunningham wanted to comment on that, but I agree with you. And like I said before, our supervisors have responsibility for the employees who are assigned to them and who they're assigned to supervise. And if there is that expectation and accountability through evaluation that they are, monitoring that. Some of the employee evaluations, not all at this point, but some of the employee evaluations have punctuality and attendance as a portion of their evaluation as well. And so it is monitored. The true time is not the end all be all, but it is how they get paid. So the incentive to be there is there. If you're not there, you're not going to get paid. And so that's why I pointed that out as the initial. But yes, we do have an expectation our supervisors are doing their job too.
Okay.
And when you talk about Friday, I do have an email that actually automatically says that I am not in the office and goes through the numbers. But I'm sorry to say this, I'm always checking my email. And I get back to people as soon as we can on issues, and anytime that there's an issue or a concern, my whole team has done that, whether it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And many times, most of the summer, we can run into somebody or run into all of each other on a Friday or a Saturday in the office. We got work to do, we don't get it done.
Okay. And when you signed the contract to become our superintendent, you signed your life away. I just want to let you know that. Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think to some extent he's quite aware of that.
No vacation, no personal time. It's just, great. All right. So we got the district employee attendance update and the date for the legal update from you, Lyle.
I don't have the date. I believe tonight we were going to try to set a date.
Actually, that's for our Board of Education, how we wanted to, remember we had come up with a quarterly legal update that we were going to have our attorneys do, and we were looking for a day that in August that we could have them do that. Talk to the,
So you want a Google date thing?
okay,
Okay.
I will send,
Yeah, let's
I
get,
will have Terry send out Google dates.
We
Then
will do that.
let's get this off our plate. It's been
please.
floating around here for a
Yes,
couple
we-
months.
We need to
and,
get it set.
I think the board needed an answer from our legal department, what's going on out there in the world of legalization and things of that nature. So let's get this off our plate. Make it happen.
The final item with the district hiring process, I didn't have any intention of going through all this information with you tonight. It was simply to provide some information. There have been some questions about the hiring process, particularly with regard to the number of administrative openings we've had this summer, number of teaching openings that we've had this summer, and how we go about filling those. What I provided to the superintendent at his request was a copy of the training PowerPoint that was used with the administrators back in January when we updated the training or the hiring procedures. And so I have that there for you to review. Certainly anyone who would like to know more in depth what happens with that hiring process, I'm more than happy to sit down with you, provide more information, answer questions on the phone, in person, whatever needs to be done. We do have a 62-page hiring manual that includes the categories of teachers, administration, educational support personnel, non-educational support staff, and extracurricular athletics and activities. And there's processes that are unique to each part, but they're all very similar processes intended to simplify the approach for all the hiring administrators, but also to ensure that we're getting the best possible candidates to work with our children. And there's not anything in my job either now or when I was a principal that I take more seriously than I put in front of our kids. And so we have a very complex process to make sure that we're not getting somebody where there's going to be a nasty surprise later. So that's essentially what that information is for. So you can peruse that, and if there are other questions, I stand ready to respond anytime. Following that, I had 4 calendars that I put in here, just sample calendars, just to give you an idea of how the hiring process, the time that the hiring process takes to do it legally and properly the way we have to. So you have a sample teacher hiring schedule is the first one. There's 10 days we are required by contract to post a position. Now, we can look at applications, we could even do a little interviewing, but we cannot make any decisions until that 10-day period is up. By contract, we have to give that period of time. So after that, we've set some interview dates and then some other functions that have to take place to hire a candidate, and that gives you a 16-day time period to hire a teacher. And you multiply that times the number of teachers we have to hire, you understand the magnitude of the task that we have. Obviously, you can multitask, but these calendars don't assume any vacations, any holidays, any interruptions. They don't account for when the board meeting falls. So you get the idea of how complicated and how much time it takes and why we may not always have everybody at the board meeting in June. Some may have to go to July, some may have to go to August, just simply for the sheer magnitude of the hiring process. Now, we do have one alternative. If that, look at that second calendar that's on page 28 in your handout, where if the union will agree, and the union has been, CMEA has been very agreeable with this when we've needed it, we can agree to an emergency or a shortened posting period where we can cut that time in half. And so you can see where we have done that this year with some positions so that we can start interviewing a little sooner and try to make decisions a little sooner. If you go to pages 29 and 30, you see the same 2 calendars tied to administrative hiring. Again, just to give you an idea of the things that are involved in it, how much time is required, and why sometimes it may seem like we're dragging our feet when we're really not. What we're trying to do is get everything accomplished, do it correctly, and make sure we put the best, most qualified people we can get in these positions of management authority, as well as in our classrooms. And certainly always, again, willing to answer questions with this. If somebody wants to know why something got delayed, why something got held, just ask. I'm more than happy to discuss it. I don't hide anything, and certainly don't want anybody feeling like we're not trying to staff the district. So this was a concern that was brought up, and I was asked to provide some information. So if there are other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, feel free to get in touch with me.
I have one question. The position posted, is that internally or externally? Do we have to post internally first?
For extracurricular, yes. We would post internally. If we do not get any internal candidates that are qualified for the position, we can then post externally. Most other positions are posted both internally and externally simultaneously.
And with a shortened or condensed calendar of only 5 days with the position posted, are we going to be getting enough qualified candidates in, you think, with just 5 days?
That is a concern when you do that. And in fact, the union did agree to a shortened posting period for the assistant superintendent position. Unfortunately, during that shortened posting period, we did not get the quality of candidates or enough quality candidates that we needed to go forward with the search. So we still had to take the longer period of time. So like I said, these calendars assume nothing goes wrong. It assumes all the stars align perfectly. Obviously, something's going to go wrong in some of them. Sometimes you're going to try to shorten it and it's just not going to work. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen here.
I have one question for you. I'm looking at this shortened one here. It's day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th day.
What page are you looking at?
Page 28.
28.
The 9th day of this process that we're checking references and create recommendation packet. When do you actually look at these people and go to, so do you wait 11 days to go to social media and see if Joe Schmo is, an escaped convict or something? It doesn't, checking references, I understand a letter of recommendation if that's what you're talking about or something. I don't know, but it would seem to me that day one, when you get their name, you should do all these searches, whatever's available to you, and see if that person is someone that we want and is qualified. I don't understand the cart in front of the horse here, checking the references on the 11th on the calendar here. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days later. And you've already interviewed for 3 days. I mean, explain that to me. What happens?
Typically, you're checking references either on your finalist candidate or on your a couple of final candidates. So you might be narrowing down to 2 or 3 people, and that's where you would begin checking references. So again, keep in mind, this is not a hard and fast rule that on this specific day that's going to happen. I mean, honestly, if I'm interviewing on the interview date, I'm checking references, I'm looking online, I'm trying to streamline this as much as I can. Every hiring administrator is going to do this. They're going to get these pieces done in maybe in a different time schedule. There is a requirement that any candidate brought forward that there is an online background check done. And there's social media pieces, there's search engines they have to look at, and we have weeded out candidates through that process because there are things that came up and they were not things that were positive. But you're not necessarily going to check references on every candidate who applies. That's entirely too time consuming. We're not just talking about reading a letter. We're talking about making a phone call, talking to somebody. It's not just getting the questions answered. It's hearing how they answer the questions. What's the tone of their voice? Are they hesitating before they answer a question? Are they just giving you dates of employment and their position title over and over again? All these things can tell you something, even though a letter may not. So we do have requirements for them, for our hiring administrators to do a physical phone call, particularly to the most recent employer, to make sure that we're aware of what we're getting. So it may not wait till that particular day. it's plugged in because it is a piece that has to get done.
Okay, I would just hate to see you get to 3 people and then you start doing a background on them and 2 of them are, not even people we want, and you've gone through, I don't know, dozen people and, now you got to go back and try to find some people you've already talked to. It would seem that we'd check all this stuff from out the gate, from the horse leaving the gate. Make sure there's somebody we want, they're quality people, and then go through the interview process. To me, it's backwards. Just my personal opinion, sir. Thank you.
Understood. And, there are times when you get to the end of that process and you have a couple of finalists and the references aren't good. And so you have to go back and look some more. And again, that's a piece of this process. Like we said, things can happen to, I remember several years ago, we thought we had a really good special ed teacher to hire. All the references were good, but we finally got a hold of the most recent principal, and that reference made it very clear we did not need to hire this person. And we'd interviewed 30 people to get to that point. So sometimes you get to that point, but it's better to know that now and go back to the drawing board, But we didn't vet all 30 that we interviewed completely. We checked what we knew, but we're going to talk to people we know. But yes, the main thing is that we get those checked and we make sure that the people are, in fact, the ones that we want in front of our kids.
I think really about that the question that kept coming at us, Lyle, about this is really the timing. And I think it's important that you're able to explain the timing to the board and that we can assure the board that we are not going to drag our feet, nor will we allow our buildings to drag their feet, because the concern that continues to come up is, why is it taking so long? I need you to make sure you address the time and why does it take so long? I think you talked some of that. I think you want to attack that specifically.
Well, and I think, honestly, I think what takes the time is what you're seeing here is a perfect scenario. So you have a summer, the rest of the world doesn't stop while you're doing this, and you're doing, the other things have to happen. You can't necessarily interview from sun up to sundown. And so if you have 5 or 6 positions available, you're trying to get all this in as quickly as you can. It's not that you're not doing the work, it's just the work is there's a magnitude to it. We are getting fairly close to having candidates for most of our administrative positions. We couldn't get them all for tonight, again, because of the magnitude and because of the sheer number of them. But we are, unfortunately, the world doesn't operate perfectly. And so when something does come up, or you get that phone call from a parent that you have to respond to now, or, any number of things come up, it does interfere with spending all of your time, hiring. So I don't know if that's everything that Dr. Cunningham wants me to mention, but the whole point of this was just to get you to see a perfect scenario and then to understand that very few of them are perfect. And you're doing some simultaneously. If you have 5 administrative openings, you're not doing them in sequence. You're doing them together as best you can. And you're trying to get them all done. And so one may take a little longer because you're doing them all together.
And again, I commend you for putting forth the effort, but one of the gaps that it appears that I witnessed through this process was, again, that we want to keep the boat afloat. We want to keep things moving, but yet there was conversations or comments that I believe I heard throughout the last week or so that we were not able to conduct this interview or finish this process because we were not available, or I was off, or he was off, things of that nature. If that's not a true statement, let's let it not become a true statement, that we got to keep it going. So I know, again, I value personal time off in the summer and all of that, but one of your colleagues have to pick up the slack, because it's imperative that we get these positions filled. You know that as much as I do, and everybody else is on this board. So we have to keep it going. And the last comment I would like to make on this is I think there's need to be a tighter fit between the admins and the board when it comes to the selection process. When the interviewing team select a person and all of that energy that goes into that selection process, then it comes to the board who gives their stamp of approval to say yay or nay. That when we say nay, that's a lot of exhausted effort that has been put forward. So at some point, we need to have some canvassing or some conversations to the board up front prior to coming to the board and saying, you know what, this is not going to fly. And as Board Member Teray said, the social media part of it, bring that up front. I think the board here values getting input from the social media. There's a lot of things out there that will help drive a lot of the board members' decision to pick a selected candidate from you guys. So I think even though you may be following some guidelines, you may want to revisit that and say, you know what, checking references and the social media, kind of put it up front, because we are exhausting our time on this candidate if the board is not going to approve it. So there should be some flavor, some type of feeling that this candidate will probably make it through the board before you bring it to us. I would hope, because if not, that's just a lot of wasted time. And now we're back to square one.
And I completely agree with what you're saying, and these are conversations that Dr. Cunningham and I are having, particularly as we go forward with things that have occurred, and we're taking it all to heart. So, you know, this is a living process too. As we get feedback from our hiring administrators, as we get feedback from the board, as we're looking at how things are working for us, we will make tweaks and adjustments. So it's not, you know, this is a process that I expect our administrators to follow, because it does make us compliant and make sure we are checking everything and doing our due diligence. But by the same token, it's not set in stone to the point where we can't make changes.
I have a comment. Good evening, everyone. One of the concerns I have and I've brought up is this issue, and I've talked with you, Lyle, a little bit, and the superintendent about it. As board members, we get contacted by people who have put in applications, haven't heard anything, don't know, were they selected to go to the next round, interviewed, didn't hear anything back or anything like that. Taking a very long time to actually start the interview process, even at the building levels. It's starting to become an issue in my eyes. And excuse me, that's why, you know, discussing this is essential. When you came, Lyle, you were asked to create a hiring process, and you did do that. I'm just concerned that not everybody's following what's outlined. And so then we get the calls and we get the concerns, and rightfully so, because we have had issues with just not starting the process quickly. And that's causing issues for us, because now we're getting the candidates that were overlooked, you know. So it is something that, you know, we need to tighten up on. And I would like to know from you and Mr. Cunningham on the board's end, if there's anything that we need to do to help with the process to ensure that it works out and it does what it's supposed to do. It's like I told you earlier, I want to trust the administration and the recommendations. We just have to make sure that all of the processes and procedures are being followed as outlined in what you have created, as outlined in what the handbook state or whatever. We have to do that and do our due diligence to make sure that we keep the ball rolling. I do understand there's other duties, but that's the nature of the job. You know, someone can leave at any time, you know, so we just need to tighten up on it.
And I I know, I think I'm seeing Dr. Cunningham wanted to say something, but I will say I really appreciate the offer. And if we may have that conversation and kind of decide if there is something different we need to do at the board level or ask from the board, I don't want to say yes or no without being thoughtful and reflective about it. So thank you for the offer. I appreciate that.
I think there's something that you asked for that's really important for us. It's being able to trust that we've done it. I think when you get a note from a person that says that they haven't been contacted, that if you could contact us or HR, and one of two things should be able to happen. We should be able to give you the email or letter that we sent to that person saying thank you for thank you for putting in, but we went another different way, a different way, or to be able to tell you this was missed. We're going to call this person and take care of it to make sure it's done. Those things have to be done to build trust so that the board knows whenever somebody calls you that this is what we do, this is how we do, and we can create a process, bring that to the board at our next committee of the whole, and make sure that that's in place. I think it's very important that when we get candidates that come to us, that we let them know. And I think it's hard on us as a district and on the candidate when they're out there and they don't know that they've got the position or don't have the position. We have to do better, and we will.
Okay. Any further comments from or just geared towards our HR
Hello?
department? Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Kim.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a quick question. I thought with the HumanX store, is that what it is, Mr. Neal, the HumanX?
Yes, we have a HumanX system.
Is that the program that we have purchased? HumanX.
Yes.
Okay, and HumanX, I thought, because we discussed this issue of folks not getting return response. Help me, or just offer more clarity for me, at least. Did we not say that some random letter is generated through the HumanX already? That's not being done. Is that correct?
Well, I think you're actually referring to the AppleTrack system, which houses our applications, and we do generate emails at the end of the search to let candidates know that the search is complete and the candidate was selected, and send those out at the end of the search. So yes, that should be being done.
So that's AppleTrack?
That is AppleTrack.
Okay, so the question then of, because there could be two issues. So you're saying that a person applies for the job on AppleTrack, you have 20 candidates, the likelihood, so you bring in 10, and the other 10, do they get a letter that says, hey, you're just not included in this process at all? How do the last 10 who never even got an interview, how are they responded to?
Well, like I said, at the end of the process, anyone who applied should be getting the email that says the process is concluded and we have selected a candidate. Different administrators have done different things, and we're tightening that up now. As far as at each stage, we would like to send something out, but we haven't gotten to that extent yet. We just, right now, the one that goes out is at the end of the process. AppleTrack does have more features where we can take steps at each point. It's just getting everything set up so that it's acting properly that takes some time. So we're still working toward that.
So that means that the inquiries that we're receiving, they may be falling through some measure of the cracks, I'm guessing.
She said the inquiries that we're getting, some of those could be falling through the cracks.
It could be.
I mean, because I'm wondering, because there are plenty, and specifically with our current hires, and I just, again, it's certainly less than before, but then I question whether we're just not hearing them. But for yourself that was an inquiry I had. Of course, when you first came on board, I had it of Dr. Edison prior to you. So I was just curious if we're obviously getting better. If we're not, I like what you said, Dr. Cunningham, that we need to continue reporting it to you guys because, as I've said over and over again, the integrity of the board, again, you guys, with the accusation that we are being selective on who we choose, you can't very well be selective if everyone isn't getting an opportunity to at least have their application reviewed and for us to know that we're equal opportunity employer at last I checked. So I would hope that we don't have any deference to anyone applying for the position. So I would really like to, Mr. Neal, maybe next week when I get back there, just for you to help me to understand what we're doing specifically and how might someone be falling through the cracks if we have implemented things that you've discussed here tonight, that where they shouldn't be. Something is still not right. And if we're paying for this, I would hope, or even the services of it, I would hope that we would be getting a yielded result, a positive yielded result, I should say. That was my question. Thanks.
Thank you. Anytime you want to talk, we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Real quick before we move on, Lyle, there was an issue with one, I think I shared with you guys, and one of our current employees had applied for a job and sent me, I guess, the automatic letter that you're talking about and asking about that process. And I remember the letter needed to be tweaked a little bit. Was that tweaked?
Yes, I'm not sure why that particular form letter went out. That was a form letter that AppleTrack has, but we have our own letter that we have developed. Puts it a little nicer than AppleTrack does, and more positively, and that's the one we send out. So as far as we know, we can't find a reason why that would have gone out other than it may have been mistakenly selected and went out wrong. So since then, I have not heard of that one going out, but if you do hear of that, please let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are going to tighten up the process sooner than later, right? And in my opinion, again, it's all about being courteous to the candidates. And it doesn't appear to be a lot of information, and it doesn't appear to be a hard task that is embarked upon us to give them that courtesy that they require, in my opinion, again. So thank you, Kim. That was a good challenge there on the process as well. Any further questions on HR or for our HR department? Okay, thank you, Lyle, for standing in there and taking some punches. Great. So next topic we have here is business meeting. There's nothing under there. I don't see anything. You have anything for us? I'm saying business meeting. Oh, this is the business meeting part. Okay, I'm like, okay, the one is blank. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Moved by Gasparo, second by Mr. Teray.
Yes.
Okay. Superintendent, you typically.
Consent agenda. A, Superintendent, regular meeting minutes for June 21st, 2016. 2, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for July 12th, 2016. 3, Committee of the Whole closed session meeting minutes for July 12th, 2016. 4, approve Board Policy 6:2008, instructional arrangement, fast track. B, for business. 1, approve accounts payable agenda of bills. 2, approve payroll for July 2016. 3, approve treasurer's report. 4, dental benefit report. 5, health benefit report. 6, quarterly interest report.
Okay. All right, do we have any further discussion on the consent agenda?
I'd like to point out, I talked to Dr. Williams earlier today.
Mhm.
The JP Morgan Chase credit card statements were not on the board packet, as well as the BMO Harris P card statements that were on there were from last month. And I've spoken to her, and she will get me that information when she can.
Okay, so is that typically what we're adding to our reports
Yes,
moving
we
forward?
have, we get since I requested it back in October, we've been getting all the credit card statements. On the AP listing, it just shows a payment to JP Morgan Chase.
Mhm.
The detail is in the bills, and she's been attaching those. They were not attached this time, and the P card statements for Harris Bank that typically get attached were the ones that we approved last month.
Okay, so you're gonna get that?
Yes, they'll be included in the packet next month
For this
For approval.
time around?
Mhm.
Is it just an oversight?
I believe it was oversight.
Okay, you working too hard. All right, thank you, Board Member Gasparo for identifying that gap. Appreciate it. Any further comments on the consent agenda? I just saw going through some of the things, but I'll talk to you offline. It's not important, just some typos, gaps, and did not affect numbers. Just got to tighten up parentheses and spaces and all that. There's about 4 or 5 that I saw. But I'm gonna leave it alone. But I'll talk to you. Oh, I wasn't talking to you. No, I'm just kidding. All right. All right. Now, just a few gaps that I saw in a couple pages. There's more punctuation and grammar. That's it. But it does not have any bearing on the trueness of the reports. That's all. And I'll talk to Dr. Williams offline on it. Okay. If there's no further questions or comments on the consent agenda, have a roll call, please.
Mr. Teray,
Aye.
Mrs. Sanders,
Are we doing a roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Consent agenda.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
They just called you.
Okay, but okay. Yes,
Dr. Hall?
did you say that?
That's it.
Yes, we got it. Thank you.
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
And Secretary Pro Tem, is that aye?
Motion passed. Next item is action reports. Human Resource, approval of personnel report.
Did you want to
What are
take
you
the motion
Mr.
first?
Brown,
Or
repeat it, please.
This is the action report for the Human Resources, the approval of the personnel report.
Okay.
Move.
Second. Moved by Gasparo, second by, is that Mr. Board Member Anderson? Was that second? Okay. Okay. Lyle?
Okay, here goes. Certified staff employment, Courtney Anderson, Beverly Brown, Dr. Rochelle Clark, Amy Easton, Laura Fitzpatrick, Cerelia Hampton, Michelle Markowka, Tracy Orris, Julianne Pappas, Yekaterina Pogrebskaya, I said it right this time. Felicia Towers, Tasha Williams, Judith Whitvet, and Teresa Yoakum. Certified staff reassignment, Michelle Calderoni, Lori Cantor, Judith Pappas, Gregory Schneider, Marjorie Trish, Susan Zasharsky. Certified staff leave of absence, Jontel Perkins. Certified staff return from leave of absence, Linda Lopez and Holly Olson. Certified staff intent to retire, Denise Ostarello. Certified staff resignation, Jessica Carter, Melissa Huff, Cassandra Morgan, Mason Newell, Matthew Raglioni, Kimberly Summerize, Philip Whale, and Christopher Grays. Educational support staff reassignment, Robin Reynolds, Alexander Santa Maria. Educational support staff leave of absence, Alicia Blood and Vivian Houston. Educational support staff return from leave of absence, Mark Hentz, and educational support staff intent to retire, Terry Tobin.
Any additional comments?
Just that Terry Tobin's has already submitted an intent to retire. This is just moving the date back by 6 months from January 31st to June 30th, basically to make the most of the retirement benefit that she's entitled to. And we are allowed to mutually do that if we choose.
Just
Okay.
have one question. Is this thing working? Hello? Is it working? I don't know if it's working. The light's on. Porch light's on, but nobody's home, I guess. You working now? Okay. All I wanted to ask you is, can you explain how we use the Family Medical Leave Act in our district? I noticed an employee here taking intermittent leave of absence, and it's going from June through December. And I don't know how that works, that you can you take a couple days here and there and work for a couple days, then take a week off, or, and this is a alien creature to me. I'm used to medical leave of absence running in a straight line, and you get 180 days or whatever it was. I don't remember, from the feds. You have a baby, you get so many days, whatever. How does that work? And can you explain that in generality for me?
Wow, I got the same question from me earlier today.
Yeah, as I just say, this is the first time today I've gotten this question. An intermittent leave of absence is allowed under FMLA, and it basically allows an employee to, I think it's just pretty much just how you described it. You can take a couple days here, a couple days there, as needed for medical necessity for yourself or a family member. So if you have we've had a couple of employees, for instance, who have had illnesses requiring regular treatments. They can work between the treatments, but they need to be off for the treatments. Rather than taking 12 weeks off, they all at once and then running out of sick days and not being able to be productive and so forth, they take their couple days off for treatment, come to work for their couple weeks, take the next couple days off. That's allowable under FMLA, and it's required that we allow it if it's requested and there's medical need for it. So that's where this type of leave comes from. The other one is just how you described. It starts and ends, and it's just a consecutive leave of absence. That one's still there. But this is a little, I don't know, probably several years ago, this one was added in.
Okay, that leads me to just one other question. In this particular case, it's an employee that provides a service to a administrator. Are we plugging someone in so that this administrator gets the support that he or she needs when this person, takes off? And part B to that question is, does this person give forewarning to you that I will be off Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, or whatever the case is, or I'll be off for a week and a half, so that the administrator isn't left high and dry with nobody to support him or her? Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, we ask the employees to make sure that as much as possible ahead of time to notify us what days are going to be out. If it's a position that requires a substitute, we put a substitute in and we arrange for that. So, for instance, in this position, if a substitute is required, sometimes a substitute is not needed. We can go a day without the person. Things stack up, but the person can catch up. Other times you have things going on, you need a substitute. We will always support that, and the administrators are really good at letting us know in those types of situations. So I guess the answer is yes, they should be letting us know ahead of time as much as they can. Sometimes you don't always know in advance what's happening or whether you're going to feel right after your treatment or what have you. But as much as they can, they do.
Okay. This particular one, without going into detail, is going to be critical very shortly because of what's coming up in the fall. So I would highly recommend that. Try to get some kind of coordination here and make sure that this position is filled, because it's going to be, Katie bar the door come, what. Okay? So,
Absolutely. If
please, sir.
when assistance is needed, we will support that, Administrator.
And how do you keep track of the days? Are they filling out forms? How does that? They call in for the days they don't come in?
The staff members are required to enter the days into the IRMA system. It goes into, don't ask me what the acronym stands for, but it's where you enter in your days off. And we track the days, forgive me, we track the days through that system, as well as, through the True Time system, because if they don't clock in, we have to have a reason they didn't clock in or out.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be something to cover that. The payroll department tracks the absences, and when they hit a certain level, or when they start getting close, we monitor a lot more closely. So if we're starting to get close to that 60 absence mark, we're monitoring that very closely to make sure that if something more is going on or more time is needed, we have that conversation and we follow proper procedure.
Is the FMLA timeframe, is it 12 weeks for a calendar year or 12 weeks for a fiscal year?
My understanding is it's a calendar year.
It's a calendar year.
That's my understanding, yes.
So for our profession, our business here, a staff or teacher, I'm just throwing out there, not certified, or certified, or support staff, can start the school year in August. They can take 12 weeks off from August to the end of December, and then take another 12 weeks off from January to May or June. That in our fiscal year, but it just so happened to be calendar year. So it could be up to 24 weeks.
If they've taken the 12 weeks in the prior 12 months, they're not eligible. If they haven't worked at least 1,250 hours, they're not eligible. So there are eligibility requirements for FMLA, and there's some other pieces to it that are not sticking in my
Okay,
brain
so-
right now.
so
But
there's
there are
working-
some things to prevent that.
Okay, so those working hours need to be there. Okay. yeah, I get what
So the working hours are important, but the way that you described it, if somebody did 12 weeks in the fall,
Yeah.
and then 12 weeks
In
in
the
the spring, the next fall, they would be out of time, and they would have to wait until the spring before they could start again.
Okay, so it is possible to take 24 weeks in any fiscal year?
It-
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
in the fiscal year.
In that
Yes,
fiscal
but that would mean that you're only going to get 12.
But you
in
may
that
not, but you may not
next-
need it.
Yeah,
Okay. But the whole intent is that whoever's taking it need it for whatever reason.
yes, sir.
And to be very honest, we haven't had abuse of the system that I'm aware of, at least since I've been in here. People have to provide documentation that they need. They have a medical need for this. There's ways to get medical documentation, but I don't believe we've had a tremendous amount of abuse of the system.
This is unpaid.
It is paid if they have sick leave.
And
If they don't have sick
if they
leave,
so choose to use it, right?
if they can choose to use it or not use it. If they have sick leave and choose to use it, it's paid. If they choose not to use it or don't have sick leave, it is unpaid, but the benefits continue. But we have to continue providing benefits at our cost throughout the FMLA leave.
But does sick leave count against the 12 weeks?
Yes,
It does.
yes.
Okay, any other questions for the personnel report?
When will
Action item?
When will Dr. Clark be joining us? Do we have to start date?
We do not have a start date set up until after we have approved, so.
Well, I wasn't sure if there was any discussion about it.
We had the discussion that she would need at least 7 days, but until she's approved, we didn't want to be presumptuous.
I just asked because registration,
Yes, ma'am.
walk-in registration's next
Yes,
week,
ma'am.
so.
And we do have a plan to work
Yes, we
that,
do.
right?
Yes, we do.
I hear an administrator's been assigned to that.
Any idea who it is?
Yes. Well, my name was mentioned earlier today when I asked about it, so I'm not going to ask any more questions after this. Yeah, I understand.
Have you accepted?
I was voluntold, so yes, I've accepted.
Voluntold. I like that. Not volunteered, but voluntold. Okay. All right. If there's no further questions with the action report for personnel report, have a roll call.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Teray,
Aye.
Mrs. Sanders,
Aye.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
Secretary Pro Tem is aye.
Motion passed. Is there any old business? Going once, going twice, going three times. New business?
Did you all set a date for the attorney?
No, that's work in progress. We talked
Okay.
about that earlier.
Yes, I saw that.
You're on old business, is that what you said?
New business.
Yeah, old business, new business. I'll give you opportunity. Any old business? Oh. Please mute. That's old business. New business? Okay, going once, going twice. All right. I would like a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of personnel evaluation.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Therese, Board Member Gasparo. Have a roll call, please. We will be in closed session for about an hour.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Teray,
Aye.
Mrs. Sanders,
Mrs. Sanders?
Aye, I'm sorry, I thought I heard it say correct.
Dr. Hall,
Aye.
and Secretary Pro Tem is aye.
Okay, we are now in closed session until at least 1900, or no, actually that's 2100. Say about 9 o'clock, at least about 2100, 9 o'clock. Okay. All righty, can I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Second.
Okay, moved by Board Member Gasparo, second by Board Member Anderson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. We are out of closed session. Back into open session. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by Gasparo,
Second.
second by Dr. Hall and Board Member Anderson. Second by Dr. Hall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it. We are now